Hi, and welcome to Things You Didn't Ask For and Didn't Need to Know, the show where we discuss random stuff before we deep dive into a topic that we find interesting. This week we're going to be talking about the computer game Baldur's Gate 3. I'm Barry.
I'm Donald.
And I'm Mart.
And also, if you enjoy the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we always appreciate comments, so throw them down as well if you want to. Before we jump into our main topic, I'm going to talk about a few bits and pieces.
Please do.
So the first thing you didn't ask for and didn't need to know this episode is: did you know that the moon is moving away from the Earth?
No.
Yeah, the moon is moving away from the Earth by a whopping 38 millimeters or 1.5 inches every year. And again, like most of my facts, I did no other research on this or anything. That's just the way it is.
What? How much a year?
38 mil. Or 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not in humanity's lifetime, but at some point the moon is going to just spin off into space.
Well, yeah, it is. It's technically spinning off into space as we speak. Although, is it spinning? Does the moon spin?
No, because there's one side that's always facing away.
This is the bit that we always see,
as
isn't
Pink Floyd constantly remind us
Yes,
of.
they do.
Actually, speaking of the moon, if I can hijack your topic.
Oh, please.
Did you know, just this week, there's two big 1969 style moon landings happening?
Who's doing them?
India and Russia.
Wow.
India, it's their third, I think, in the last maybe the last 2 decades. And
Landing on the moon.
Wait a second now, just to be totally clear. Technically, it is in the last 2 decades, but it's in the last 2-3 years.
Wait, have they had are these manned missions?
No.
Okay, so they're
No.
Okay, so NASA are still on course. To
No, yeah, sorry. I may have bigged it up a bit with 1969 style.
Yeah. Because I was like, I'm sure I would have read that and remembered it. So they've landed probes and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
and India, it's not in the last 2 or 3 years though, Donald. I think one was in 2000. The India one, there was one in 2008, and I think there was one prior to that. But the one prior to
because there was the name of the Indian one is Chandrayaan 3.
Yes,
that's what's going to land. Chandrayaan 2 crashed into the moon.
It did, yeah.
And if you want to know exactly how, I know exactly how.
Tell us.
Okay, was it meant to?
Definitely know more about
this
than
me. No, it definitely wasn't meant to.
Okay.
But then I thought that Chandrayaan...
I don't know about Chandrayaan 1 at all, actually.
I thought that Chandrayaan 1 happened. But what's the thing you were saying? Because I suppose they all have...
I thought Chandrayaan 1 was in 2008.
Maybe it was. I actually don't know. Don't know offhand.
It's kind of going back a while anyway. But interestingly...
Maybe that's why the moon's moving.
Russia's... yeah, people crashing into it.
Banging off it.
Russia, this is their first trip back to the moon since 47 years ago.
Yeah.
Because remember, they were like really rushing to get there before America, and then America beat them, and they were like really butthurt
what else
about
would they be
that.
but Russian?
Oh, yeah, but there, yeah.
Thank you very much.
But did you hear about the Russian one?
Yeah.
It already crashed.
Yeah.
Oh.
But like, as a space enthusiast, I should be going, oh no, this sucks for Russia type of thing.
But then you're like, yeah, take that for what you did.
No, but
Ukraine.
it is because the guy who's the minister for space, effectively, he's an absolute dumbass. He's like just a stupid. He's thick and he's immature and he's like just absolutely the wrong person for the job.
No, Donald, come down off the fence and tell us what you really think.
But it's like anyone who's going to be in a kind of a position of power in Russia. It's not about,
It's not like it's not a meritocracy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think
which is a shame because one thing that I always did admire about the space kind of research and science, kind of that part of science, is there's always been agnostic about the animosity between countries, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So now, other than say, for example,
the entirety of the Cold War,
rush to the nuclear, whoever was going to get the nukes first and stuff.
Yeah, but and after that, when
the Cold War,
the moon first, who was going to get into space first? And
yeah, I guess
maybe I'm thinking thing was funded by the Cold War.
I'm really thinking
of America landed on the moon.
I'll tell you where that comment has come from. I was thinking of the book 2001: A Space Odyssey, and that whole series. Yeah. I liked how, especially in the end one, I think there was one where there was a Chinese ship that was stuck and there was a pilot still alive and they couldn't save him, and it was like just really showing the collaboration between nations that transcended the petty squabbling of
and
politics.
Of course, Star Trek.
And I was like, oh wait, that was a fictional book.
Star Trek, everybody came together and humanity was utopia, and Mass Effect, humanity came together. It happens. It's a science fiction trope at this point that we get along. Personally, That's the most unbelievable part of the whole.
Way to
any
bring it
science
all
fiction.
down, Barry.
I know, thank you. Moving along, here in Ireland, where we are, there's a tourist trail, I guess, or a tourist route called the Wild Atlantic Way that goes all the way from Donegal in the north of the country down to Kerry or Cork in the south of the country. It's actually 2,500 kilometres long and is, in fact, the longest coastal tourist route in the world.
How is it so long, considering Ireland is not... I know that it's like
But it's
jagged
it's Irish roads.
It's
Irish
because
roads.
it's jagged.
It
It's
goes-
like it's one
Wow.
of the things that's immeasurable is
Yeah.
the border of a country.
Yeah.
Actually, the border.
I
of
was
a
going to say
country-
that's totally
the
measurable.
coastline.
No.
Do you mean the coastline?
I should say the coastline.
Yeah.
The coastline of a country.
Why? How?
Because how do you measure it? Do you measure it?
get some orbital satellite photography that's high resolution and...
Oh, way better than my
Okay.
idea of a tape measure.
No, but you literally would need a tape measure because, Mart, in the time that you took it, do you take the
the tide goes in and out now.
the tide goes in and out, and then you're talking
Coastal
of
erosion.
the coastal
Well,
erosion.
yeah,
you're
okay.
talking
Well, what
the-
you measure today, it'll be wrong in a million years.
Somebody throws a rock.
No, not a million years. There are parts of Dublin that are falling into the sea. There are parts of loads of different pieces.
Yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, you can't be precise, for sure.
Okay, moving on. There are potentially, they reckon, 1,500 potentially active volcanoes on planet Earth as we speak. 1,500 of them.
Potentially active.
Potentially active, yeah. Not sure how many were actually active. Quite a few of them, I'd say.
So you're saying
But-
that movie with Tommy Lee Jones, I think it's Tommy Lee Jones, Volcano,
It is,
is
yeah.
real.
It's possible.
Potentially real.
Potentially real, yeah. So yeah, I think I was thinking that like one of those goes off Krakatoa style. It'd be.
What is Krakatoa again?
It was a massive volcano, I think it was in Indonesia, and it erupted, and they reckon it's what created. It had a massive global effect. You'd have to read up on it. It had a huge global effect on weather all over the world, and obviously on the people
Caused a
living
little
beside
mini
it.
ice age.
Yeah, I don't know. It was responsible.
Well, I know
for
there was
stuff,
one
yeah.
super volcano that caused one of the 6 or one of the 5
Extinction
events,
yeah.
but I don't know. Okay, that's something to think about.
There you go. Now, another thing you didn't ask for and didn't need to know. 138 hours, 41 minutes, and 2 seconds. What am I talking about?
Okay, say it again.
138 hours, 41 minutes, and 2 seconds.
Is that the dude that fell in a rock and his hand was stuck?
No. 'Cause
That's
that was
how
like
many
48
days?
hours, I think.
Oh, right.
72 hours, I think that was. This is 138 hours.
That was the sequel of that movie.
Although what happened to him sounds less painful than this. This is the current world record for the longest recorded song in the world.
man.
Guinness World Record
Wow.
thing. 138 hours, 41 minutes, 2 seconds.
How is
the
that?
song
Did the person have to stay awake the whole time?
Well, yeah, it's hard to sing when you're asleep.
Well, yeah, but it's also hard to stay awake for 138 hours and
Yeah.
2 hours.
I don't know how the guy did it. Dr. Jagdish Pillai from Varanasi in India sang a song based on a Hindu poem called Ramcharitmanas for that length of time. And yeah,
it already sounds painful.
I know. So yeah, that's yeah. I managed a minute and a half.
Oh, you actually listened to it?
I managed a minute and a half of listening.
I know
to
music
it,
is cultural.
Oh, so totally
and
cultural.
I'm not a fan of
You
Indian
definitely should have had a link, Barry, so we could play some of it. So we
God,
could hear it.
I'm so glad you don't.
No, just so
Yeah,
we could hear it. Like,
Yeah,
No,
you can put a
because
link. You can put a link in the YouTube video.
Yeah, because
Okay.
wouldn't it get taken down if we play some music in the background?
good point.
This guy, Manish
Possibly.
Indivianis,
Yeah.
will be
Yeah.
calling us going, hey, take that down.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
I'm pretty sure he's following our channel.
yeah, probably. So, what do you guys got?
Oh, thank you,
No, that's it.
What do we guys got? Well, do you know what I heard of? Actually, before I even go into it, I'm going to issue, not a correction, but an addition to the topic from, well, I'm going to say last week. It's actually a whole entire month ago now. And by the way, sorry to our listeners, we kind of effectively skipped an episode. There was a pox on our house, COVID visited, so we had to kind of shut down for a while, shut down production.
Yeah.
But do you remember last week we were talking about UFOs and so on, and I was talking about this guy, Bob Lazar from the 80s,
Yes.
who was, I guess, a central figure in UFO lore, but his story was so fantastical, pretty much no one believed him. except the most extreme UFO buffs. And it kind of ruined his life because he was a very promising, really intelligent person, scientist, career and all this ahead of him. And he kind of flushed it down the toilet by just going public. And it also served, I think, as a cautionary tale for anyone else who might have thought, oh, I'm going to come clean and say what I know. But I kind of was, and even I never really believed it. Much as I'm interested in the whole thing and I heard it all the time, never really believed it. But then when David Grush came along and he said, by the way, we do have UFOs and all this kind of stuff to Congress and they're doing investigations now and everything, it lends a bit more kind of retrospective credibility to Bob Lazar. But one of the things that I forgot to mention, which is kind of significant, when he was working on these spaceships, allegedly, again, you see, it's just that his story was so detailed and so specific, and he described everything in minute detail, even to the security scanner that they had in this alleged secret base in the desert that no one knew about, and it turns out afterwards that it was revealed to be there, Area 51, everyone knows now. One of the things he was saying is, oh yeah, the aliens have this element that we don't even know about. You know the periodic table and all the elements on it? He's describing this element called element 115. That's what he called it anyway. And he's saying that they have it in some kind of distilled form and that's what fuels their ships. And they have a tiny sample of it and all this. But of course, everyone's like, well, no, this element doesn't even exist anywhere. It's not.
It's LK99.
No, not even. But it turns out, this was the 80s and something in the early 2000s with the super collider in CERN. They created element 115. It's now officially an element on the periodic table. Has been for like, at this stage, 15 or 20 years or something. But it's just another thing that lends credibility to such a crazy story.
That's crazy.
And just retrospect.
And that's crazy in itself. Like.
Yeah, because I was kicking myself after the episode. I was like, I can't believe I forgot to even say that.
It's meta crazy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
But anyway, that's not what I was going to... I didn't want to go down the particular rabbit hole. I just had to issue that addition to the UFO episode. But I was going to say, have you heard of the orb? The WorldCoin orb?
WorldCoin? No.
Oh, the thing in Las Vegas. Oh, no.
Well, it's in multiple cities all over the world. Now, basically, you know OpenAI, the company that brought us ChatGPT. They're obviously big into their whole AI thing and everything. The next thing that...
orb. Yes.
Yeah, the next thing that guy, Sam Altman, he's the kind of head of OpenAI. The next thing he's dipping his toe into is Bitcoin. Now,
cryptocurrency.
Exactly. Oh, sorry. Cryptocurrency, not Bitcoin, which is just... I don't want to go into Bitcoin in this episode here because I think we would definitely do an episode. I'd love to talk someday about money as an episode of itself. Bitcoin would be a part of it. I don't want to do a whole episode of Bitcoin because I think Bitcoin's done at this stage. But anyway...
criminals do not agree with you.
Well, he has decided, as in OpenAI, have decided to make their own Bitcoin. But one of the things that they're doing, which is specific to OpenAI's version of Bitcoin, that's different from every other Bitcoin, because I keep saying Bitcoin as a kind of their own version of cryptocurrency, is they have a unique kind of an, I guess, identifier that creates you and proves you as a person. Because in their mind, they're going to use blockchain, which is the kind of a fundamental mechanic that all cryptocurrency works under. So you can't, like, for example, let's say real money that's made of paper. If you get a forgery machine, you can print your own money. And it's kind of hard to tell which is fake and which is real. Well, cryptocurrency is built on this basically computer language, kind of a secret encrypted database that all the coins trace back to. So when you give someone a Bitcoin or any form of cryptocurrency, it's essentially, I'm not going to say unhackable, nothing's unhackable, but it's kind of a very difficult to hack or make up or anything based on the blockchain. And the whole big deal about blockchain is this crypto database isn't sitting on a computer somewhere that could be hacked or stolen. It's distributed amongst every computer that uses or transacts Bitcoin. But anyway, I digress. They have decided to do their own version of cryptocurrency. That bit I'm going to leave aside because for the purposes of this discussion, that's not what I'm interested in. They have come up with a great idea. And even if they decided, never mind the cryptocurrency, it's rubbish, keep the blockchain building blocks and do this anyway. It's literally like a silver orb that you look into and it scans your retina and it will create I guess, an instance of you as a person and store it on the blockchain. Now, I can't remember what, it's a proof of person or something it's called. So if this existed, you know, if you're ever on the internet and you're going to go to YouTube and you want to watch, you know, some adult, I'm not going to say adult material because YouTube doesn't have adult material, meaning porn, but they have stuff that's under 18s and over 18s. And you have to tick a box and say, oh, Scout's Honor, I'm over 18, show me this material. Imagine if every person on the internet had a essentially definitive proof tied to you and your account that's not attached to any website, but just attached to your instance on the internet. Now, I'm not describing this very well at all, but you get your orb, you stare into it, it scans your retina, and it saves that kind of detail on the internet, doing air quotes to just mean it's out there. So it's like your social security number or your whatever,
but more secure because.
But actually more secure, yeah. But it's like a unique identifier of you as a human being that exists on the internet. If that could be implemented worldwide for all internet users, and if it became ubiquitous, so that you want to go register to a new site, what's your password? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, you've got your retina thingy, and all of this stuff, it's distributed on the blockchain, and they use your retina to create effectively the account, and then they delete the retina kind of record. So even nobody's going to hack this and know your retina so they can use it anywhere else.
They're not going to do a low-key on it and rip your eyeball out.
No, exactly. I just think the idea itself in the context of, you know, an OpenAI company is now moving into Bitcoin, very uninteresting.
Yeah.
But a way of having an account that exists on the internet, you could log into everything. And imagine, you know, why did Elon Musk literally bankrupt himself and get loans out so he could spend $44 billion on Twitter?
Because he forgot his password?
No, because he figured, Twitter's full of bots, you know, so I'm going to prove, you know, I'm going to do this right. There's no such thing as bots anymore. Now, bots will be everywhere. OpenAI literally brought them to a new level where they're going to be more indistinguishable from people. But with something like this, you know when you're talking to a bot or not. You'll have that green verified check that comes with the orb security that you know it's a person.
Yeah,
I think it's such a cool idea.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. It's brilliant, like, if it came to fruition.
It's already there. They're going to roll it out. But the problem is they're implementing this in the context. Sorry?
That's why it's an orb, so they can roll it out.
Oh, God. Yeah. Barry was reading a book of dad jokes earlier, by the way, and this just rubbed off.
I ate one. I'm like Bill Bailey in black books.
Look, I have the World app here.
I don't know what that is.
That's the app that goes with that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, in the context of, say, for example, I've never bought any cryptocurrency and I don't have any interest in doing so. So, I couldn't be arsed. But if there was like, buy into this, and by the way, they're really effectively bribing people to do this. They're like, if you sign up to WorldCoin right now, you'll get, you know, X amount of money. All this kind of really trying to, you know, the way these things only will either take off or fail based on traction. But at one point they were, I think, getting a new subscriber every 7 seconds or something. For it really has enough momentum, and it's coming from a big enough company.
Imagine if you will, if like if they were giving away their cryptocurrency to sign up to this, but then that cryptocurrency itself took off, and like billions of people had signed up to it, and those billions of people suddenly became millionaires overnight. Like that would have a shocking effect on the world economy, wouldn't it?
Linda said, "Could the AI hack? Could AI hack it by recreating your eyeball?"
Well, for starters, AI at this stage where it's at, no, but that's the biggest fear, that literally no one knows. AI is going to get to a point where, and like, if you hear any AI expert, I've heard AI experts saying, it's fine, it's going to be fine. And I've heard doomsayers. I've heard some AI experts saying, you know, in the next 20, 30 years, the world is doomed, you know, humanity will have ceased to exist. They're literally that extreme. And the fact is, neither of them know. They're both guessing.
No, they're guessing. Yeah.
Your opinion is as valuable as anyone else's. Yep. Will it? I don't know. But, you know, no amount of expertise in the field is going to allow you to predict what AI is going to be able to do.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows. But
Might as well ask Nostradamus.
Yeah. What I'm really thinking is when quantum computers become a thing, I'm just imagining all security systems right now, every security system is based on, basically based on passwords, which is already stupid and ridiculous. But anything, even like fingerprint scanners, retina scanners, all this kind of stuff is all based on some kind of a hash that's just unguessable at whatever level of encryption that it's at. Yeah. Suddenly when you have quantum computers, it's like all that stuff goes out the window.
Yeah, quantum computer can...
Obviously, at that stage, you're going to have quantum computers doing the encrypting as well, but there's going to be some kind of a window where, Actually, if anybody's looking for... Do you know the book The Martian?
Yes.
It's by a writer called Andy Weir. Oh, the movie was... Oh, God.
It was enjoyable.
I nearly said the line... the movie was okay, but the book was better.
but it's true in this case.
But it's true in this
Definitely,
case.
yeah.
That was one of my first audiobooks that I listened to because the reader was brilliant. But he made another book called Project Hail Mary, which is one of the best audiobook listens because for reasons I can't say because I'll do a spoiler on the book itself, Project Hail Mary is better listened to by the audiobook version than just reading it. But he also, and Andy Weir also wrote a short story, and I can't remember what it's called now, but he wrote a short story about a kind of a, sorry? No, The Egg was one of my favorite short stories I've ever read, and I've read a lot.
Is Ryan Gosling going to be in the Project Hail Mary film?
He was interested in it, but I don't know if I don't know where that's at. But see, when you hear these very early, someone expressed an interest in making a movie of a book that may or may not happen ever. And if it does, it might be 10 years down the line. But what I was going to say is, anyway, Andy Weir wrote a short story on a kind of like a casino heist style, but where the casino has implemented this new quantum computer kind of thing. But the guy who's doing the heist is actually the guy who did the security. And it goes into, in perfect Andy Weir style. This is why The Martian is good. You're reading it and he's explaining really high-level scientific stuff, but he's explaining it dumbed down enough and simple that he feeds it to you in little spoonfuls and you think, oh God, I am so smart for understanding this.
Explain to me like I'm 5.
Yeah, but it's not in a condescending, it's like, that all scienced out and I really got it.
Here's the thing. A couple of things you said there reminded me of something else because you're talking about movies that were, books that were made into movies and such. And I was reading something on Reddit the other day and was that premise of what movies were better than the books, essentially. And somebody, a little sub thing started talking about the James Bond books and their movie counterparts and how they're almost completely unrelated. And when somebody commented that Moonraker, the movie, was shot in Venice, the Amazon rainforest, and the fucking moon. The book was entirely based in Kent.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, well.
Which made
good decision.
Laugh,
good decision.
So much. It's called Moonraker, entirely in Kent. So yeah, I just thought that was funny.
The name of that film art is Digiocracy.
When you say that film, are you saying that's the short story by Andy Weir
that you were just talking about?
Oh, okay, yeah. Digitocracy.
Is it?
Digitocracy, I would say.
Yeah, I cannot remember it. I've listened to it probably a year ago at this stage. Anyway, it's just a recommend, since we're talking about quantum computers and hacking blockchains and whether AI will be able to hack the orb or any other crypto anything.
Yeah.
Yes is the answer, Linda. At some point, AI will do all that, but hopefully by the time it's able to, they'll also have got the good guy AIs to do the preventing of the hacking, hopefully. Another thing, did you guys, Barry and Donal, I know you've played Magic the Gathering, Donal, haven't you?
Very little.
Tiny amount, same.
Yeah. I've never actually played it, but someone kind of, because actually I barely even know what it is. Fill in our listeners on, what is Magic the Gathering?
It is a card game where you have specific cards that do specific things. Unlike a regular deck of cards, each card has its own thing. It's either a power card or a fuel-y kind of card. I actually have the introduction box at home.
Really?
Unopened.
Oh, what?
Yes, I know. I meant
Barry,
to learn.
Oisin is at the stage nearly when you can play with it.
Nah, not yet. It's a very complicated game.
Is it?
Yeah. And these cards, some of these cards are worth lots and lots of money, and most of them aren't. But people collect them. They build decks because you have different types of deck. You have like very defensive decks and very offensive decks and stuff like that. And they play against each other. And yeah, it's a trading card game.
I'm just remember the name Boogie 2998.
TCG. That's what it is. A trading card game.
What is Boogie 2998?
Boogie 2998 is a YouTuber that famously he used to have his persona online is that he would throw a temper type of thing, and in one of the games he threw a table over. When he was
I think I can picture him, big kind of muscular guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I know that GIF from from what you call it, WhatsApp and stuff. But anyway,
by muscular, he was almost 300 pounds.
But the reason I started asking all this is, did you know that there's a Lord of the Rings version of what's the thing again? Magic the Gathering. I never forgot the name of it.
So Lord of the Rings TCG.
Yes, and obviously, if you're going to do a Lord of the Rings card game with all the different orcs and goblins and whatever else are there has to be one card to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them. They made a one ring card, but there's only one card.
Oh my goodness! So they've got this whole thing, and everyone's buying the decks, but
everyone was buying the deck. Finally, some random person got that deck, opened it up, like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory.
I was just about to start singing. I got a golden ticket.
Yeah,
I got a golden ticket.
How much then is the ring worth?
I can already tell you.
Oh right, okay.
Because he obviously sold it.
Did he?
Guess. Wait,
a million.
I was going to say by saying guess, and you won't believe how much this went for. You're going to guess too high and ruin it.
No, I'm going to guess £85,000.
I'm going to go the other way, million.
You are absolutely 100% spot on, Barry.
Thank you very much.
$1 million.
Yeah.
Oh man, and then never play the game himself ever.
Oh yeah. Oh, you could be sure. It's like you've won it forever.
Yeah.
And the person who's won that card is like going to put it in a vault somewhere because he's going to be like, I can't. I think it's actually a famous person that bought it as well, some rapper or something, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. Because he's going to put that in a little plastic sleeve and put it away, like so.
Oh, totally. You'd have to.
So, like, the makers of the game are just like, oh, you can play this card game, but you're never going to get that. Nobody's ever going to play with that card. The rest of the card game better be really good. And so much so that card is...
The rest of the card game would have to be good enough.
Have to be brilliant.
To be able to work without that card, because 99.999% of all people playing that card game are never going to have the ring anyway.
And like, you're sitting down and you're like, oh, as long as they don't have that card ring, that ring card, I'll be safe. Then you're like, oh, wait, no, that rapper has it. It's fine.
Yeah.
and then he sits down as your next opponent. You're like, oh, no!
That's funny if you understand the game.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of, I don't know, don't review any other topics randomly to bring up.
I have a book worth.
A book worth of things you didn't ask for and didn't need to know.
I was going to say, so scumbags in Dublin, and Dublin has a lot of scumbags. So the government is thinking of introducing a zero tolerance. I don't know if the government's introducing. It was talked about that a zero tolerance policy should be brought in. What do you think?
Well, this is obviously because of the spate of crimes that have been happening against tourists in Dublin.
Yeah.
Well, my own personal opinion, and I think this came out in our death penalty episode, is, like, for example, I literally have heard of cases where it's, someone does some violent crime and they're getting put away, and you hear in the news and it's like, this is their 138th conviction. It's like, wait a minute, how did you not predict this was going to happen from 137 other crimes? It's like some people are on a path and they genuinely need help. I don't think anyone gets to a point, well, actually, I do think some people do, where you're beyond redemption. Most people can be saved. It's just a question of expending of resources and the will to do that. But when you're in government position, and resources aren't infinite. You got to make certain decisions. Do we spend so much resources here that we don't spend them over there? These are the decisions that have to be made. But at a point, you either decide we will spend all the resources on trying to rehabilitate these people or not, stop them. Because every time if you hear someone has 50 convictions, not all of them are going to be terrible. Some of them have ruined someone's life.
So is this
multiple people's lives.
Is the solution?
I'm a definite not zero tolerance. Everybody makes mistakes, and some people need to make that mistake a few times. But definitely, I like in America, they have this. For starters, I'm also a fan of privatize the prison system, give it to someone like, what's the name of that guy who owns Ryanair?
Michael
Give it to someone like Michael O'Leary and say,
you can buy a bigger prison cell.
No, I'm sorry, but like Amnesty International would very strong. Sorry, what did you say?
You can buy a bigger prison cell. Oh, you want the toilet option?
Not that extreme, but what I mean is, because if you look at it, I think it's what, $250,000 or 300 grand to keep one person in prison for 1 year.
Yeah.
Give me 300 grand for 1 year, and I'll kill that person for you. I mean, come on. There's got to be.
Sorry, I'm stuck on the Ryanair thing. I'm thinking now that on your way in, there's a little square hole, only about 100 mil by 100 mil, and it's like, can your drugs package fit through here?
No, but I definitely feel like when you look at something like the healthcare system, it's broken in Ireland. It's a vortex that's swallowing up money, and I don't know how to make that better. Well, actually, I do. It's got a lot to do with rediverting stuff into mental health, but I don't know the fix there really, right? Yeah. But look at the prison system. All the money that's going in there, trust me, give it to someone and give them the... I also believe, and this is why I think, Donald, to answer your question, do I believe in 3 strikes and you're out or whatever? Yes, I believe that to be a part of society isn't some kind of a... And this is what people who would disagree with me would say. There's a certain amount of humanity that's a right for all humans. That's what Amnesty International say. Bullshit. You're wrong. It's actually... There's a certain amount of humanity that's granted to everyone by default, but you can give it up. If you behave in a certain way repeatedly, you should be expunged from society. You had your chance. Ideally, lock them up in a privatized prison system. Don't worry too much about it. I wouldn't be too worried about prisoners' rights because fuck you, you already done broke the law.
Yeah, you've taken somebody else's right to have a normal life by committing a crime.
Very, very clear. Very, very clear, because I know how extreme my position is. This isn't for all crime. This is for extremely violent or, stuff that ruins someone's life. Because if some people are floating through life like down the river, and in that stream, they're bouncing off other people, and everyone they touch, they ruin their life forever.
And they're allowed parking in disabled spots when they're not disabled.
No, because I know I'm being extreme here, but Anyway, to answer your question, I do think that there should be some kind of a very strict policy on certain types of crime.
Barry?
Yeah, I'd be 100% with Mart on this. And it is extreme, but the older I get, the less patience I have for these
the old
toe rags. That
right-wing extremism.
I don't think it's right-wing.
I think it kind of is, actually.
Which Are you more left-wing or right-wing?
It's just anti-toe rag would be my...
I think I was going to say, just in case, because we do have listeners in America and other countries, I think. Explain toe rag.
Oh, toe rag is just...
Because it sounds like a very specific thing that you use to
clean your...
It's a blackguard. A gurrier.
A scut.
A scut, yeah. A scumbag. A chav.
A rapscallion.
A rapscallion, yeah. Although rapscallions tend to be less serious.
Yeah, that's kind of a more...
whimsy. Rapscallions tend to be a little bit more whimsy.
That's exactly the word I was trying to think of.
But yeah, basically scumbags.
Yeah. Well, what's your opinion, though? You've got our opinions.
I think my thought is that we should have a whole episode on this would be the ultimate in 3 white guys like giving their opinion.
Like we did on the death penalty.
If we did an episode of this. But I think... it's kind of like there's no point in sending loads of guards out if they can't do something. There's a whole theory called the
some of those guards might have tattoos.
That's ridiculous. There's a whole thing called the broken glass. You know the broken windows thing. Do you know about that?
Yes.
Okay. One of you explain it really briefly, or you'll get my long explanation of it.
Okay, so the broken windows policies that some police forces have brought in around the world is you come down heavy on the very, very minor crimes, and eventually it would lead to a lessening of more major crimes.
And the theory being, I guess, just to explain the reason it's called that is there is this thing of you can have an abandoned, apartment building that's just sitting there for years.
O'Connell Street.
Anywhere, but an apartment building, say, or a building or anything. And it's fine. But then someday, some gurrier chucks a rock through a window and breaks it. And then he goes off, and now of all the windows, only one is broken. That thing could have been sitting there for a year with no broken windows. But once one window is broken, unless that's repaired, you come back a month later, they'll all be broken. Because some other gurriers will see, a window's broken and someone got away with it, so I'll break another window because it's fun.
Yeah, but also, if the person that broke the window is caught and punished, that no one else is going to go breaking that window or
Actually,
spraying graffiti.
that's actually very
and
interesting
stuff.
because there's two ways to look at it from that point onwards. One is catch them and punish them, and the other way is the other way to look at it is you realize immediately, okay, this area needs help. If there's a window broken, let's put extra help into
That's
this
what I was
area.
going to say, because I
And
can
that's
tell you
what's needed.
Yeah, you can catch them and punish them all the live long day. Actually, that will never work.
But that's what they did. They literally caught and punished people that they caught. Because before, if a policeman caught a young guy tagging, spraying graffiti, they'd give him a clip around the ear and send him on his way. And he'd just go off tagging somewhere else where the cop wasn't. But they started clamping down on it and actually punishing anyone they caught doing it. And it meant that those kids got in trouble younger and got kind of scared straight, I guess. And then went on to doing other crimes.
When you say that's what they did, who did it?
Because New York were one of the first cities to do it.
Yeah, because New York was very bad in the 80s.
But in the 70s and 80s, it was very bad. It was actually an Irish guy. I think he was an Irish-born man who went over there and joined the police force and became commissioner. I can't remember his name.
Commissioner Gordon.
Connolly, I think, or something like that. But yeah, now, again, I'm pulling that out of my memory. Do not fact-check me. It's possibly wrong.
But to your point, Donald, because I do agree with you, I think, like I know years and years and years ago, the governor of Mountjoy prison, it was John Lonergan at the time, I don't know who he is now, but this is decades ago, I remember him saying, it's like he is the governor of the prison, all the prisoners are there, and the wife comes in with all the kids, and he's looking at all them kids, sadly just thinking they are going to be the other side of this thing in another 10 or 15 years kind of thing.
Yeah.
Knowing, because if you're born in a deprived area, you're raised in a deprived area, you already don't have chances that other people have, and so on. And like the fix, as you were saying, Donald, is, funnel resources into these areas to fix it from the ground up kind of thing, rather than the hard hand of, catch them and punish them and that'll scare them straight kind of thing. I know that actually there are instances where that did work, so it's not like one is wrong and one is right. but there's a definite mix. Yeah,
it's a mix. You got to have a mix. You got to have better education. You've got to have better policing. You've got to have more community outreach. All that stuff, all put together, builds a community, and that reduces crime.
If I said to you the look of the Irish, would you know what it is?
It's that common perception that Irish people are lucky.
Yeah,
which is a perception from abroad.
Yeah,
it came from a box of Lucky Charms.
Yeah. If I said to you the look of Kokura, would you know what it is?
No.
Well, I'm jokingly going to say the girl from The Big Bang Theory. Is it Kelly Kukuo?
Kelly Kukuo. How do you pronounce that? Kokura? Kokura. Kokura.
Yeah, Kokura. Yeah, Kokura.
Okay, so anyway, Kokura. So it is 1945. Okay, the Potsdam Conference happens.
What's the Potsdam Conference?
Where loads of
world
leaders come together and they say, okay, what do we do about Japan? Okay, and then the American president goes, I have a huge bomb that I can.
Oh, this is before the war was over.
Yeah, this is before the bomb was dropped in Hiroshima.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that happened in the Potsdam Conference. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
And
was Japan there?
No,
because you'd feel if they were there. Because whoa.
There's like,
how big of a bomb?
Is this a majority vote, or can one person veto?
Can we veto this?
I think they didn't.
Because you would think they'd go like, okay, we surrender.
But they were like, we definitely have to finish it. So basically, there was a general idea of, okay, we're going to firebomb every single city except for some select cities that we're going to drop that are potential targets for the atomic bomb. Yeah.
Okay.
So the Enola Gay went off, and it dropped the little boy on Hiroshima. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Enola Gay was named after the pilot's mother.
Okay.
Did you know?
I did not know.
Okay. Yeah. Enola Gay Tibbets was the mother's name, the mother of the pilot. But then the second bomb happened, okay, and do you know the name of the plane that dropped the second bomb? Because everybody knows.
Nobody knows who came in second.
Everybody knows the first plane.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not a clue.
It was called Boxcar.
Named after the pilot's mother.
Named after the pilot.
Boxcar Willie.
No. So anyway, and the name of the bomb was Fat Man, and Fat Man was dropped on Nagasaki. Okay. But when Boxcar went over to drop the bomb, he was like, oh, there's too much rain, and they were told you can't use radar for this, okay? You have to be able to see the target. So on the Enola Gay, they were able to see the target, and they were able to see the bridge that they were meant to drop it on. They dropped it, and it was successful. Horrifically successful. With the second bomb, they were looking around to see if they could see the target, but because a city beside beside Kokura had been firebombed and smoke had gone over Kokura, they were like, oh, we can't drop the bomb on Kokura.
Wait, are you telling me Kokura was the target for Fat Boy? Or Fat Man?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Really?
And because they had firebombed another city upwind, they were like, oh, we're running out of petrol. One of the lines that were into the fuel tanks was damaged on takeoff. And they were like, oh, screw it, we'll just keep on ahead because we have enough to do our mission. But then they were flying around for 45 minutes over Kokura. And he said, sure, we might as well blow up Nagasaki.
Jesus. So that's the look of Kokura.
And that's a look at Kokura.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
And of course, that was 3 days after.
Yeah.
That was 3 days after. And in the interim, if I'm not mistaken, the Emperor, I might be completely wrong on this, the Emperor of Japan wanted to surrender because one of his cities was blown up, but they had to wait. They had to send people out there to look and see, was it blown up?
Oh,
and then there was almost like a coup because the military didn't want to surrender because obviously they were all in. They had, they had committed everything and they didn't want to surrender. So there was nearly a coup in between. And then I think when they dropped the second bomb, they went, okay, maybe we should.
Let's not send a person to the second city.
Maybe we should fold.
Surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, big time.
Okay, so the whole Ryan Tuberty thing has been done to death. Okay, but I had heard that RTE were like deleting Ryan Tuberty's name off the website, and I was going.
Can I just stop you real quick? Just again, because some foreign listeners may not be or familiar with the story.
Actually, this is
high level, just one-liner.
One-liner. Ryan Tuberty was.
It doesn't have to be literally a one-liner, but
Okay.
Ryan Tuberty is an Irish TV presenter that said, I earned this much, and the national broadcaster were actually paying him another amount, and then it all came out, and because our national broadcaster is state-funded, actually, we fund it by paying a television licence, and the government also funded. There was a big hoo-ha about it, and now they're not. They were negotiating with him to get him back to work, but now he's not going back to work, or they're stopped negotiating, and it's all a big.
So this horrible thing has happened where Ryan Tuberty has deleted RTE from his Instagram. Like he's deleted a trace of it.
That's like a messy breakup.
Messy breakup.
Block your ex.
And a CV. Oh my gosh. And
so the next job he goes for, they'll be like, "What's this 20-year gap? I see here, Mr. Tuberty, that you have on your CV." He's not getting another job. Imagine if we wouldn't get a job and said there's 20-year gap, because he's been with them a long time.
I was taking a break.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point was that I started looking into how petty this was, and I looked up to do research, because the way we always do research on this.
Yeah, very in-depth.
So I read an article on The Mirror, themirror.ie, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to trust The Mirror.
It's a tabloid newspaper.
Yeah, tabloid newspaper. So I started reading another thing, and I was like, wait a second. I put the second tabloid, it was from dublinlive.ie. I put the Dublin Live article beside the Mirror article. And it literally was. They were the same article.
Yeah. I saw someone do this. You can see it on YouTube. It's American news shows, where they start off with one newscaster saying something, and then they superimpose a second one saying the exact same thing, and then the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth.
I've
and
actually
seventh,
seen an episode of Last Week Tonight on that exactly, because the problem with American media especially, and it is the same in Europe, I guess, and in Ireland as well, is there's one person will own, they don't just own that state, they'll own like a big station, but they could own
30 or 40.
60, local stations all around the place, and those media people in those stations are mandated that they have to say the same thing. And I know in the Last Week Tonight episode I watched, they showed like 24 people saying word for word, like reading a script, all of them the same.
And
thing.
they were often not okay.
In this thing, they talk about Ray D'Arcy, and they say Kildare born Ray D'Arcy, and the other one says Kildare man, and then it's the rest of that paragraph is exactly the same. It's ridiculous. And so my point is,
and should look at. I didn't even know it was a thing until fairly recently. This whole thing of like websites will go on Reddit and they'll go to, for example, malicious compliance or petty revenge or one of those, and they'll make an article, a clickbait article based on somebody's story from Reddit.
My news app does that. When I say news app, I use that word very liberally. I have a stupid app on my phone just with random everything in it, but a huge amount of stuff is just like, this person on Reddit said this and these other people said that, and it's like they make an article out of it. But I click on it, so I guess it works.
That's the thing.
There isn't a program. There is a website, and what the website does is it gets what's this website? It gets articles from the left and the right of political leanings type of thing.
Okay.
And it presents the both views to you on purpose. Like,
I actually heard about this.
Balanced.
Balanced news.
They give you a balanced view.
Yeah. But I would love to see that.
Internet.
I would but
I would go to that website 100%. That's brilliant.
Okay, well, we're looking for sponsors, so find out who they are.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of fake news, okay, did you hear about Glorbo?
No.
Okay. Glorbo was an enemy that was introduced into Destiny.
Okay.
Okay, you know Destiny 2.
Yeah, a computer game, yeah.
A computer sorry. Glorbo. Okay, so there's a computer game called Destiny 2 and one of the enemies that were introduced into it, there's a cheat hack was made on how to beat this enemy. Okay? Which makes sense, doesn't it?
Okay.
Except that the enemy was a thing that the community of Destiny 2 came up with on purpose. Yeah? Glorbo doesn't exist.
Wait, how can... Okay, keep going, because I'm not... You've lost me anyway.
So the community of Destiny 2 said, let's trick AI. They said, let's invent an enemy that doesn't exist.
So when you say that it was introduced in the game, it actually wasn't introduced in it.
But the AI, the other way, so their websites, and what the websites do is they just get words and they put them together and they make a story about the word.
I think what you're
saying
is...
There's a whole how-to on how to beat Glorbo.
But I think the significance of this is essentially what all AI systems do, about like ChatGPT, all these chatbot AI systems, they do what's called scraping the internet, where you literally send it out and effectively it downloads all the internet. So ChatGPT 3.5, for example, had data up to, I think, 2019. So if you asked it in 2021, hey, who's the president of Ireland? It wouldn't know, or at least it would think it knew, and it would give you data from 2 years ago.
It would still be right, but anyway, go on.
Well, okay, yeah, but but in a lot of cases, the data was out of date.
Yeah.
So then, when they released ChatGPT 4.0, it went and scraped even the newer data off the internet. And you remember recently there was this big Reddit strike where all the mods on Reddit got mad, because essentially what's happening is people are volunteering their free time to moderate subreddits on Reddit, and they will moderate it, make sure that the content there is reasonable and friendly and whatever else it needs to be for depending on the forum. Then along comes these chatbots, and it's not just ChatGPT, Google's Claude, and there's other ones. They're all doing the same thing. They scrape these data, take that data back into the repository, and then spits it out at users and in a human-centric style, so that say for example OpenAI is charging a monthly subscription fee for ChatGPT 4.0.
Yeah.
And they're making money basically on content that people put on Reddit of their free will in their own free time and never agreed to sell it. It got scraped, taken away without their permission, and is being sold now, and they can't do anything about it. So what OpenAI have done, for example, is they have said, fine, if you want your site to not be scraped by our bot, put this little flag in, basically put a bit of code in behind the site's programming, so that OpenAI's chatbot anyway will come along, see this code and not scrape it.
Okay.
Firstly, it's opt-in, which isn't good. And secondly, that's what OpenAI agreed to. What about every other chatbot?
Yeah.
So there's that. But then there's also another thing. Let's say this issue gets solved, because right now this is an ongoing fight between basically all internet sites in the world that are creating data. Even things like New York Times and Washington Post and all, they're like, hey, you are taking our stuff. however this goes, let's say it gets decided, okay, chatbots can't steal data anymore. Or let's say we can put code in and block it. So that'll happen. You suddenly are going to live in a world where, well, any chatbot that managed to scrape up all the data that they exist, no future chatbots can come along after that because they'll be blocked from doing it.
Yeah.
So I think the story you're telling, Donald, is kind of how, as part of this uprising against the scraping of data of websites, which Reddit did in the form of all their moderators marked all their forums as not safe for work and didn't allow you to view them for days and stuff. And essentially, those moderators lost that fight because the owner of Reddit, there is a person who owns it, said, never mind, they'll tire themselves out. And then they didn't tire themselves out. So he said, okay, any moderator who doesn't buy in, get rid of them and just give their forum to someone else who will fall into line. So Reddit has been basically beaten into submission, and so will all the other sites. But what another form of rebellion, I guess, by the masses against these chatbots scraping their data is, and I actually didn't know this until you said it there, apparently these kind of Destiny kind of forum people said, hey, let's all keep feeding in this fake story and then ask ChatGPT tomorrow and it'll start spitting it out as if it's true, even though it's not.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of significance of it. But it's interesting though to see where's the world of these chatbots going to go now. Is it going to end up kind of cut off at the knees now where no future chatbots can come along, which almost is worse for competition because it just solidifies the positions of these chatbots that have become established before there were any rules.
Yeah.
And of course, something like that is funny and entertaining, the Destiny 2 story.
Yeah.
But it's not really going to change anything.
It shows well how terrible things are going in the future. But here's a quick question, just your opinion, just really quickly. Do you know who Rishi Sunak is?
Oh, no.
No.
He's the English Prime Minister.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This is just funny because English politicians, jeez, what are they doing now?
They're nothing to do with us. They've left Europe. So.
What they're doing now is...
Sorry, they've left the EU.
It's
physically impossible for them to leave Europe. So
Much
some
to
people had issues with that little fact.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We're not in Europe anymore. No, you're still in Europe. You're just not in the EU.
But so one of the things that Rishi Sunak did recently is he allowed oil companies to drill for oil in the North Sea and this kind of stuff. Okay, North Atlantic. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what he did, really. Okay, the question is, should it be acceptable to go over to a politician's house and knock on their door and give out to them?
No.
No,
that's their private abode. It's not just probably not just them there. There may be a partner, there may be children. Yeah, so absolutely no. You shouldn't be allowed to congregate at their house or protest outside their house. Yeah. That is what the government buildings are for.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
You can protest outside where they work.
Yeah,
because it's their job that you're not agreeing with. It's what they're doing in their job that you do. So 100%. Stay away from their house.
I 100% agree. So
and also. Don't be a dick about your protest either. Like, you know, if the politician or whatever you're protesting against happens to be overweight, don't be like, you fat bastard. You know, that's not fair. Don't be like, I hate your policies.
Do you think they should?
That's what it's about.
Do you think a protester should super glue their hands to the road? Which is the thing they do.
No. Well, I think this whole thing, I can't remember which protesters do this.
Painful.
But maybe that too, but then again, some protesters are willing to sacrifice, and I admire and respect that. But if you're going to be a dick and block the road into the Dublin airport, for example, on some protest, it's almost like I'm sitting there and I'm like, up to now, I would have probably agreed with you. Right now, I want to drive over you and then find whatever you're protesting for and burn it down. You're not doing your cause any good by inconveniencing normal, innocent people.
That's the thing.
Inconvenience kind of, companies or businesses or the system somehow. Normal people, you're really shooting yourself in the foot.
So, for example, people who throw like paint on art and stuff.
I mean, I don't even understand what that would be protesting in the first place. I object to art.
They do it literally. No, they do it literally to get attention.
No, because I remember somebody threw a paint on some painting in I think it was somewhere in France in the Louvre or somewhere like that. Just threw some paint on something, and they managed to restore it.
That was an environmental protest. But they were just trying to... That's like a terrorist... that's like a terrorist attack. It's like blowing up stuff for the sake of bringing attention to your cause.
Yeah.
And then
I 100% agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either.
Work for the IRA.
So the funny thing is,
did it.
this was Greenpeace that I'm talking about. So Greenpeace covered Richie Sunak's house in literally a black cloth.
But the other thing I'm going to say, because I already said, nope, it's not good to go to politicians' house. But then again, let's say a politician says, I'm going to do business with a company and pay them to cut down 100 acres of the rainforest per day because it'll make my nation some profit. That is a significant enough that's a matter of life and death to certainly to people, maybe to the species, to the planet. So there's, I guess, certain policies that will transcend your day to day that are so serious that you
overtake the government. But you don't go to the guy's house again. Leave his house out of it, leave his family.
Yeah, but
out of it.
I think sometimes that kind of where you gloves off. This is war. This is a matter of survival.
Yeah, but do you do that? Like, what? Where is the line? Sorry, where is the line? Like,
well, yeah, I don't. I can see the point of it. I don't even know if I agree with it, but I can see that point.
Yeah.
Really quick, what's a tofu dreg building?
Oh, no, I already don't like the sound of it though.
I don't. Yeah, same.
Oh.
No one likes the sound of it, and especially when it's collapsing around you. The meat version is a building that is built properly. A tofu dreg building is the name of a type of building in China because there's so much corruption going on that so let's say they have like a building exists, okay, and the contractor said, okay, this is going to take, let's say, of the 400 tons of concrete that are needed, that concrete's going to need, like, let's say, 80 tons of cement, yeah?
Okay.
But only put in 40 tons of cement, and now you have another 40 tons put into the next house, and now you've saved 80 tons worth of cement that you can just pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay, yeah. Look at that happens on every single building site in the world, I imagine.
No, not to
this extent.
Not to this
surely.
degree, Barry. You should look up.
Degrees.
But this is like
it does happen.
This is what the Russian military was at for decades, where they were like, oh, we'll just say we're putting a certain amount of armor on the tanks, and really we'll put less and pocket the profit. All
Well, I mean, yeah, but guys, this is to an epidemic scale in China. It's like. It's a massive, massive, massive issue in China where buildings literally just fall, just collapse.
It's in China.
China really didn't do themselves any favors
really
when they went
have a book.
and beat up monks.
You weren't joking earlier.
Actually, yeah.
Folks, we were going to be talking about BG3. Maybe not in this episode.
I can save everything here for the next one.
We were literally, how long are we talking now, guys? Over an hour, and we haven't gone near our main topic yet.
Well, we're good to go.
All right.
I'm going to moderate a little bit. I'm going to say, okay, guys, this is enough. This is enough stuff you didn't ask for and didn't need to know. Let's get to the other stuff you didn't ask for and didn't need to know.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. I have a way of approaching it.
Okay.
I think those are going to bring in the segue.
Are you bringing in the questions your mom asked?
Yeah.
Okay.
But one of you kick off stuff and tell me when you want me to come in with questions.
What I would like to do is almost preface this topic because I wasn't sure if this. I'm still not even sure how this is going to land because I kind of feel like when we do a subject, we try to take a subject that maybe you might not be interested in, but I'm hoping if you chose to listen to it anyway, that you would enjoy it. Because when I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I'll usually just look at the title and go, nah. Well, listen to that episode. So I'm hoping people will give it a go and listen to it anyway, even if you're not a gamer. But I know we did an episode previously on video games, for example, and I feel that episode, if you're not into video games, it's still something that you should listen to. It gives a good high-level overview of the role of video games in the world today, the impact it has, of what significance it is. This is a much more niche kind of foothold in the world of video games. It's just one game in particular.
Yeah.
But I think it's still a good one to talk about because it's kind of set a new height for, there's different genres of video games. There's, role-playing games, real-time strategies, first-person shooters. This is the best version of one particular genre, the role-playing game. And it's based on I'm sure everybody who's listening has at least got some familiarity with Dungeons and Dragons, which is the game from the 70s where it's like pencil and paper kind of thing. Someone in the 90s took that idea. In fact, I'm sure somebody did previously, but successfully did it in the 90s. In 1998, released a game called Baldur's Gate, which took this Dungeons and Dragons pencil and paper idea and put it into a video game. And then that was Baldur's Gate 1. I think a couple of years later, they released Baldur's Gate 2. And then there was nothing for 2 decades because of licensing rights and all sorts of stuff. But the long and the short of it is Baldur's Gate 3 has just come out. And it's big in the world of video games. And I think
much bigger than they anticipated.
Yes.
Much bigger.
Yeah.
Much bigger.
And I think it's interesting to talk about just for that reason alone.
Yeah.
So I think
100%. So that one of the things that they said was that 20 years in the waiting and 6 years in the making. So the company that made this isn't the same company that made the original games. It's a Belgian company called Larian that made it, and they previously made other role-playing games called Divinity and Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2. Both very, very good games. But with Baldur's Gate 3, they developed it for 6 years, and 3 years ago, they released it on what they call early access. So when a computer company, games company release a game on early access, what it means is it allows them to get a portion of the game out there, allows fans of the games or the genre or the title to buy into it, play it, try out a little bit of it, and give feedback, which allows the developers then to fix bugs or change direction and stuff like that. And Larian did a fantastic job of that. I bought the game. I think I'm the only one of the 3 that actually had it in early access from day 1 of early access, and I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. Now, I liked Divinity and Divinity 2. I thought they were good games. Not 100% my cup of tea, but I enjoyed playing them a little bit. And in the early part of the early access, I felt it was a little bit too close to Divinity Original Sin 2. And I thought, oh yeah, it's going to be okay. Yeah. But they listened, they obviously got a lot of that kind of feedback, and they listened, they changed it up. And what they ended up making is a game that is incredibly addictive. It's very, very true to, it's not quite the experience you get from playing Dungeons and Dragons around a table with your friend, because that's something I'm very used to as well. I've been doing that for years as well. But they have made a computer game that's very, very close to that experience. They've put so much into this game. It's absolutely incredible. Tiny little details everywhere that are they just make you smile when you're playing it. You're like, didn't notice that my first time playing it. Didn't notice that my 5th time playing it. And little things like that. And the level of detail in it is insane. Just for example, this is what they say. I haven't there are 3 acts in the game. I haven't got out of Act 1 yet. But they reckon 17,000 possible ending variations in this game. 17,000.
Okay, I'm going to say at this point, explain. So, actually, wait. Will I come back with the questions?
You can if you want.
Can I even I'm going to elaborate on that 17,000 endings thing.
Yeah,
because
but can I, if you are going to elaborate on it, let me frame it. So let's say someone never played a computer game, but they're still listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
And they have an idea of a film. A film starts here, storyline happens, and it finishes there. And there's only one ending on it. They might be thinking, how could there be 17,000 endings on this game?
Yeah.
Or they would have read a book, and the book might be they might be familiar with Choose Your Own Adventure, and they might be like, which is more a better example of Choose Your Own Adventure. So,
yeah, I was actually going to just use the movie example as the clear linear path from the start to the finish, and that's the product. But video games, and not all video games, some video games are exactly like that movie. They have the storyline from start to finish, and that's it. But some video games allow you to interact with the world, and decisions you make will influence what happens. So, for example, in Baldur's Gate, there's, I don't know, hundreds of different people that you interact with, you can talk with, you can whatever, but you can also end up in a fight with them, you could kill them. So if you, depending on your actions in each encounter with every person you meet in this world, how you might even just have a fight with them and they'll go off and they're not friends with you anymore, kind of thing. And that can actually happen. You're going to end up with the next thing you do with the next person you meet or the next place you go will be influenced by what you just did. So in one playthrough, you might kill this person you met. So by the end of the game, that person isn't even there. In another playthrough, you might not have killed the person. You might have become friends with that person. They might have joined your team. And at the end of the game, that person is standing beside you as you beat the final boss or whatever. So,
or you could be like the people that I was reading about the other day that got about 30 hours into the game, made a decision, and everybody died. At that early part of the game.
Wow.
They made a single decision and everybody died. So every single time, almost if you play the game and take the exact same choices every single time, you're going to get more or less the same result. But even then, it's going to be nearly impossible with the amount of dialogue options and the amount of NPCs, which are non-player characters, that you interact with. Like you were saying, it's going to alter the endings, and that's how they have 17,000 possible variations on an ending. It's mind-boggling. It's brilliantly done. They have 174 hours of cutscenes.
Yeah, I heard about that. It's like
right?
more than how many...
People gave out stink about Metal Gear Solid 4 because it had 8 hours of cutscenes in it. Right? Now, to be fair, the ones in Metal Gear Solid 4, one of those cutscenes was 71 minutes long.
What?
Yeah. So,
71.
to explain, a cutscene, you're playing your video game, you're controlling the character. A cutscene is where something happens where you're not controlling the character and it plays out like a short part of a story, a movie, where it's scripted dialogue and so on. So that's a cutscene. So yeah, there are people. I remember people giving out.
There was a cutscene in a video game that was 71 minutes long.
You literally had to sit and watch a movie.
But you wouldn't be able to. What if you're in the middle of it? I got to go to dinner. Or,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played the game myself, so I don't know.
But I remember when I heard this about Baldur's Gate 3, and I heard that before I bought it or anything, that there was 178 hours of. I was like, well, forget that. I'm not going to even interspersed in little splices throughout the whole game. That's just too much. But then I realized there's that many. But if no matter what playthrough you do, you're not going to end up seeing them all.
You're not going to see them all.
Because obviously,
no chance.
Depending on what you say, the person's going to say something back. And if you say something different, they'll say something different back. But you're not going to see both.
And the thing about it is, you can't. A lot of computer games allow you to, a lot of computer games that have dialogue in them where you talk to characters in the game, they allow you to step back and then ask. So you might have a choice of 5 things to say to them. You pick choice number 1. They give you their response, and then you go back and pick choice number 2. A lot of the stuff in Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't do that. You choose number 1, and they go number 2, and then you're moved on to the next part of the conversation, and you can't go back. Sometimes you can, depending on who you're talking to, but sometimes that's it. That's your choice. You've made your choice. It's locked in.
But that's confidence by the producer, because I know normally video game producers we have spent time paying actors to voice act this. We want every player to see every bit that's in it. Larian have made the decision, I think, not everyone's going to see everything. We're okay with that because
2 million words is how many lines of script or words in the script that they've written for this game. And to be fair, some of those presumably are as your character hits something with a sword or something.
Well, I still did hear that's more than 7 War and Peace books.
It's more than the entire run of Game of Thrones books. All the books that George R. R. Martin has written so far, it's more than that. So it's a lot. And it's all incredibly well. And 2 things. It's incredibly well voice acted. But on top of that, none of it is the protagonist. The character you create doesn't say a word. So they've got all that dialogue for everybody else. It's insane. You can talk to everybody and they all have something to say. And it's all voice acted.
They all have something to say.
They all have something to say. Even if it's just, bugger off, I'm not talking to you today. And then you're done. That's your conversation.
Yeah.
But they all have something to say. And there's no spoiler here because Baldur's Gate is in the name. When you're in Baldur's Gate, it's a huge sprawling city with lots and lots of people in it. And they all have something to say. So that in itself as well is absolutely incredible. Another interesting thing about this game is, like I said, they released it in early access 3 years ago, and they had said, okay, we're going to be releasing it in September 2023. They said this earlier this year. Then another games company, Bethesda, came out and said, we're releasing another role-playing game, another RPG, called Starfield in September. Now, a lot of computer game companies, they have the thing called the crunch. Is that the right? What's the right word? The crunch.
Yes.
Where they're going, the release date's coming, everybody work harder. You have to work 500 hours today. So they put their people, but Larian had done it in such a way, and they have this ethos as a company where, they don't do that. They also have the confidence in their product to say, hey, let's move ours back a month. Or, forward a month. They released it early. Now, very, very few games companies can do that. On top of that,
bug free, or they would be bugged as hell.
They released it a month early, and it very few bugs, which for a modern computer game,
and one of this complexity as well.
Yeah, one of this complexity, this size, this 6 years in, and another thing about it, there's no DLCs, there's no game, there's no shop in the game, there's no microtransactions, there's no plans for an expansion or a DLC or anything like that. It's just, we have made this thing. If you want to pay money for it and play it and enjoy it whatever way you want, there is so much in the game that's just
there's a lot to be said for that, because I remember, I'm sure you remember there's an RPG that came out in 2011 called Skyrim. And
was it Oblivion though, was it?
Well, was it Oblivion?
Oblivion that did the horse armor.
The horse armor, yeah. They basically were like,
and that was kind of the first one.
Well, it was the first one that had a lot of bad press anyway. I should explain just DLC is acronym for downloadable content, and basically what that is you pay your money, you buy the game, you now own that product. But within the game, you can buy these little extra bits and pieces here and there, and it's generally frowned upon by consumers because there's a kind of a feeling of, look, I bought the game, why are you? And I think it's different if you buy a game and then there's like a whole big add-on where you can have this whole new big area to go, because after the game is sold, the producer or the manufacturer, developers go back and create this extra whole new content to add in. That's okay. In fact, that's welcome. But when you have a game and it's like, ooh, but you can buy a sword that can do a +1 extra damage for €1.
Or like, worse, you can buy the sword and it just makes the sword you already own look slightly different.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. So there's I think DLC is a bit of a, within the world of gamers, a bit controversial, because I still remember, do you know Dragon Age? Actually, Dragon Age was made by BioWare, the same company that made the original Baldur's Gates. Yeah. And Dragon Age was 6 years in the making, and it was perfection to me.
Brilliant.
Like for me, brilliant. Baldur's Gate 1 was my favorite game ever until Dragon Age came along. Then that was my favorite game ever. But after Dragon Age did so well, EA came along and bought the IP, and they said, quick, you have 1 year, do Dragon Age 2. So they did. It sucked. And I remember the launch day. It was like I bought it, installed it, sat down. I was at the camp. You're talking to all the people there, and there's a weird dwarf in the corner, and he's like, yes, for $5.99 you can go over to this other place. I was like,
what?
Really? On day one you have totally immersion breaking, pandering, trying to quibble over a few quid to try to sell me some crap. I was like, but it was like, that's EA's fingerprints all over it.
Oh yeah, and they've killed many an IP over the years.
So you can see straight away, for Larian to do in Baldur's Gate, to make the decision, we're not going to grub it up with any of that. That's a good decision.
They did a fantastic job. So far I'm enjoying the hell out of playing it. There's so much in it.
So at this point I'm going to ask a few questions about the game.
Yep.
And then, because you have more stuff to say, Barry, don't you?
Yeah, well, no, I've just got some bits here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to go. No, these are from the point of view of an absolute noob. And it's almost like we're going to try to convince them this is why you should play computer games, and specifically this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we might as well approach it from some angle.
We can, but the one thing I would say, funny enough, firstly, I don't think computer games are for everyone. It's like, if I was to try to convince you, Barry, you should listen to podcasts all the time because I do. Well, I mean, I do, but maybe you don't want to. No. Or I might be like, hey, listen to audiobooks. Because there's a few people I'd be always, you should listen to audiobooks because I love audiobooks. But then some people, maybe they like reading real books, but they don't want audiobooks. I
much prefer reading.
Yeah, so that's fine. And I would equally say there are some people who won't be interested in video games. It's like somebody trying to convince me, Mart, go and kick a football around a pitch because it's enjoyable. Well, no.
You've done it and you don't enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just not my bag.
Yeah.
So equally, video games would be exactly the same. I like video games. I wouldn't necessarily try to convince everyone. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, okay, but then I'll say, and we already had a whole podcast about games. like Baldur's Gate is one type of game, but a lot of people are listening to this would say like, oh, why would I play Baldur's Gate? But they've definitely played games. Like they might have played a game on their computer, the 4 in a row games. They might have played Solitaire.
Probably what you're saying is a lot of people, I think most people in the world today, of all the people who have played games, will have played mobile games, which I would almost look down my nose on. I would definitely judge not the gamer, but the game itself, because mobile games tend to be do this repetitive action repeatedly in a little Skinner's box where you get this dopamine rush by doing some little achievement and going up a level or doing your daily challenge or whatever. It's using the mechanic that is in games, but it's stripped away all the gaming bit and all the fun bit and just left that mechanic of push the button, get the endorphin rush, and that's the game.
Okay.
Which isn't really a game, but that's a whole other conversation.
Off track, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that's a whole other conversation.
No. It's relevant because if I like one of the questions I had is how do you play Baldur's Gate? Like literally how?
Do you want to answer? What I
just on a really is it high level? Is that what they mean?
A high level on how you play Baldur's Gate. Yeah, I'm stumped.
Well, I mean, basically, Baldur's Gate, just to remind us what we've already said, it's taken the mechanic of Dungeons and Dragons and just put graphics around it and put it into a computer game. But how you play it is, it's set in a medieval world, and if you can imagine something like Game of Thrones or...
I was just going to say, give an example of a book or a film.
Yeah, if you can imagine something like...
Or a TV series.
Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves.
Yes, for example. Unfortunately, didn't get the love it deserved, and I don't think many people would have watched it. But yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Amongst Thieves is a movie based on the Dungeons and Dragons intellectual property.
But Game of Thrones.
But Game of Thrones is more widely known. Yeah, so it's a medievally kind of, but
it's
also
a fantasy medieval.
Yeah, with zombies and dragons and stuff.
Yeah, and dungeons.
And it's literally played on a computer screen using a keyboard and a mouse.
Yes, but what makes it good is actually that's a very much fundamental high level. But what makes it good is the immersiveness of a role playing game, and this is the role playing aspect of it, because you've lots of games where you're controlling people and you're in a medieval world that don't have this. But this has the whole element of, and a lot of this game will be spent in dialogue with other characters. It's not all about running around and killing people, and you can meet people who might choose to fight beside you. You can have what's called your gang or your band, party. Your party, work together, and that can be, probably a dozen people or something. I think there's 4 that can be with you simultaneously in this one. In the previous Baldur's Gates, it was 6. But you can have multiple different people with you. So you can actually also balance out your party so that you have one person who's the talker, he's the smooth talker. You can have another person who's the wizard and can do big magic, and another person who's a healer. You have all these different types of skill people, but you also get to know their personalities. So there's somebody who is like, wow, this person's a great fighter. I want them in my party so that when we get attacked, they'll protect me because they're really good at fighting. But also, they're kind of a really annoying person and I don't like them. So you're almost wanting to kick them out of your party, even though you need them, because of their personality. And that personality grates on you because the game is done so well.
Would this be another human or an NPC?
But they're all NPCs. Sorry, I should be clear. There is a multiplayer option, but probably most players will play this as it's a single player game. You're playing by yourself. You're controlling your character. And then all these other people you meet are all controlled by the computer.
Yeah. But you can play also in real life with 4 people can play in a team together.
Yeah, there is a multiplayer option where 4 real people can play together, yeah.
And so if there was someone out there who had never ever played or heard of it, like what's D&D?
Right, okay, so D&D is a fantasy role-playing game developed in the 1970s. And essentially what that is, you have a group of players around a table. One of those players is called the GM or DM, which is Dungeon Master or Game Master. I'm going to stick with Game Master for the explanation. And he controls the world and all of the people and creatures in it. The rest of the players control a single character that they decide on what kind of character that is, whether they be male, female, whether they be a fighter, a rogue, a dwarf, a spellcaster, and the dungeon master, the game master, will describe a scenario, and the players will describe how they react to that scenario. Then there's rolling of dice, which helps decide the outcome of those things. And the dungeon master makes calls on those dice rolls, maybe makes some dice rolls himself or things that happen behind his screen where he keeps things. And the game is done like that. It's a very social game, and it's a huge amount of fun. And people get to role play different characters, and the fights and the conversations that are had around the table are just it's a lot of fun.
And you may remember, just to anyone who may not be overly familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, but it was kind of brought to popularity by Stranger Things
and Critical Role are the two biggest things.
But the thing is, Critical Role, I think you'd be hard pressed to find some random person who knows of Critical Role without already knowing of Dungeons and Dragons. Maybe I'm wrong there, actually. To be fair, I don't really, but definitely I feel like Stranger Things in the first episode showed the kids playing Dungeons and Dragons, and that was essentially what they were doing. But I think this is what Baldur's Gate has done so well. The big benefit of Dungeons and Dragons, and chime in here anytime, Barry, but basically the games master is the person who essentially spins the story and everyone else is in it. So if you're the games master, Barry, and you're saying, oh, we're in a dungeon and there's a monster in the corner, and I might randomly choose to run away, or I choose to grab a candle and throw it at the monster's mouth. I could randomly come up with anything.
Yeah.
And it's up to the games master to say, well, you roll a dice to see whether you're able to, and all this kind of stuff. But I think it's the total freedom of whatever you can imagine you want to try to do, you can try to do. It might be ridiculous and fail, but you can try.
Yeah.
And I think this is the big deal about Baldur's Gate
3, yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 particularly, it's really successfully managed to take that complete freedom to try anything.
Yeah.
And it'll work.
It'll work this time. And then you do another play and it won't work at all.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, you can... Oh, but sorry, when I say it'll work, it'll work that you can try.
Yeah.
You can try, I'm going to grab a chair and try to throw it at him.
I mentioned Critical Role there, and for people that don't know, Critical Role is a live internet role Dungeons and Dragons game done by professional voice actors in America. And it's massively, massively popular. One of the biggest earners ever on Twitch. They've branched out from doing this simple live online game to their own press company, their own publishing company. They've created their own games. They've become, like, a lot of them have become household names. And one of those names is Matthew Mercer. He's the GM of it. It's so far as that there's a term now in Dungeons and Dragons circles called the Matt Mercer effect, where people watch Critical Role, go to play Dungeons and Dragons, and then the GM is not Matt Mercer style, and they're like, man, this isn't as good as Critical Role, because, of course not. He's a professional voice actor and a man who's been playing Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games for donkey's years. He's forgotten more about role-playing games than most of us will ever know. But and actually, he does voices in Baldur's Gate 3 as well.
Really?
Yeah. But, oh man, now I forgot my point. What were we talking about?
You were just saying how big Critical Role is, and I think just giving people a background of what it is.
So there was a reason for it, though, and I can't remember what that was. Anyway, it is a huge, massively popular thing. They pack out convention centers when they turn up to these games conventions and stuff like that. Like, they're just insanely popular.
Barry, you were talking there about Twitch. So if someone wanted to see a gameplay, so there's nothing that happens on the internet where people play a game that's popular at the moment, and just other people just tune in and just watch it, type of thing. Yeah,
that's essentially what they do. And then they do that live on a Thursday, and then on the following Monday or Tuesday they put it up on YouTube as well.
Yeah. So a perfect example of that is, for one of our friends that does it, is a guy called Shadowhex. So that's SHADOW_HEX. So if you go onto Kick and look for, download the app. There's an app that you can get on your phone, or you can get on the website, and the app's called Kick. Okay,
is that KICK or
KICK? And if you go onto Kick and if you look for Shadowhex, that's a person we know, and he's playing through Baldur's Gate.
How much did Jay give you for that?
Was that Jay? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I want a cut.
But so hopefully, Jay, I suppose he can make his whole career trying to finish the game on that.
And that's the thing about it. Is there's so many choices. Like, just to give you an example, you pick up a lot of stuff as you go along in the game. And for example, one of the things you pick up is a bottle of grease. So you get into a fight, or even if you don't, you're standing on a street corner, you can take that bottle of grease and you can throw it, and it'll break and grease will be all over the floor. And then anyone walking through it can slip and fall. So if you've got enemies, you can throw that at their feet and they might slip and fall. But you can also cast a spell at it. And one of those spells might be a fire-based spell. And fire and grease equals boom. You have a big fire on the ground now. And the enemies are still standing in there, or they've slipped and they're lying on the ground, and now they're on fire. And then you might feel sorry for them. So you can throw a bottle of water at them and they'll put out the fire. Like, literally, and then if that kills that enemy, you can go over and pick up that enemy and throw them at another enemy. So, or you can push them off a ledge. There's just
even throw a bottle of water at them, and if you have a lightning-based spell and it hits the water, it'll electrify the water, and anyone standing in it.
Class,
there's
all these effects.
There's boots you can find that you can put on a character that will, if they're standing in water, they cast a spell, any spell, or they attack, or they do something. They'll get electrical charges, which they can then release into enemies. Which means if you give them bottles of water, they can smash it on the ground at their own feet, and then start casting spells and pick up.
I have those boots, but I didn't. I read the instruction, the description, and I was like, "What? I don't even understand."
Yeah, you smash a bottle of water at your feet, and suddenly.
But if any spell you cast,
I think it's any spell. I can't remember now because
I hope I didn't sell them. I was like, "Oh, what even are these?" Because you have so many stuff. It's like,
I don't sell anything magical.
Yeah, that's why.
That's just my strongest character that can carry the most stuff. It's just.
It's like a pack mule of magic.
Essentially, I could send them back to camp, which is the thing you can do, but I'm just not.
Don't never trust it. Can't be arrive back and be robbed.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Gale will have ate everything.
Okay, so here's another question, right? Of the options that a person has to do in a day, like, you know the way what's that thing, the Maslow's triangle?
The triangle of needs.
Yeah, the triangle of needs. You have to sleep, you have to go to the bathroom, you have to do all this kind of stuff, okay? But then from an entertainment point of view, you have all these choices. You can look at a television program. You can, what's any other entertainment thing?
Read a book.
You can read a book.
Listen to music.
You can learn music.
Go for a walk.
Okay. Why would you play Baldur's Gate 3 over all of the other ones? Because when you choose to play Baldur's Gate 3, you're saying, of every single thing I could do in my whole life, I'm choosing to play Baldur's Gate 3.
Well, I know personally I'll say this much about it. Again, for starters, I don't think you'll ever convince someone who doesn't like video games that they will like this game.
No, but for someone who's
ambivalent.
For someone who never played it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to convince them, play it.
I mean, again,
I think what the only means is just explain. I don't think the only actually is going to go out and try and convince people who don't play video games.
Okay.
It's just using that extreme example of.
Yeah, but what I was going to say then is, one thing about it is, compared to other games, is it is immersive. Like, for example, if I was going to play Call of Duty and I only had 10 minutes before I had to bring the dogs for a walk, you know what? I'll jump in and do one quick map and then go. That's it, done. Call of Duty is in very bite-sized, small, quick chunks. Something like Baldur's Gate, I feel anyway, like there's no point sitting down if you only have 10 minutes.
I have to disagree with you there.
I
feel the simple reason that you can jump into the game and then either, go to your camp. If you've got 10 minutes, go to your camp, sort out some of your inventory, talk to the people that you mightn't have talked to for a while, things like that. You can always pop on, you'll always find something to do, like even if it's only moving up the map a small bit, and then if combat happens, you can just leave it and walk away.
But I will say, Donald, just to compare it to other games or whatever, it is very slow paced, and you can lose hours to it at one go.
It's very slow paced, but here's something interesting: speedruns. Now, for those of you that don't know, in gaming, there's an entire community called speedrunners who try to finish games as quickly as possible. They use glitches, they use silly little things that allow them to get to the end of the game quickly. Sometimes it might be where the programmers haven't fused two walls together and they realize if they jump in this exact right spot, they'll get over, and suddenly they're in a whole other area. Little things like that. So they try and finish the game. Now, this is a game that has hundreds and hundreds of hours of content, and someone called Imtayal completed Baldur's Gate 3 in 10 minutes and 25 seconds.
What?
Yeah. The other thing that happens in Baldur's Gate 3 is you can romance some of these other characters in the game. You can actually build up a relationship with them, get to them to the point where they like you, and then you can romance them. And there are adult themes included in that. One of the adult themes is one of the characters is a druid, and druids can take the form of animals. One of the animals the druid can take the form of is a bear. And yes, there is a cutscene of bear sex in Baldur's Gate.
I was going to say, when you say romance, that's obviously a euphemism for,
Yeah. The fastest romance speedrun, by the way, is 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Now, that's 2 minutes and 13 seconds.
That was definitely quite man.
From when you get control of your character on the Nautilid, on the start of the ship. They found a way of getting off that really fast. Like, I think 17 seconds to get off that ship. That takes, new players a good while to get through. Then they have a way of initiating the combat in a certain area, but not themselves in it. And then they're able to jump over a load of rocks, get into another area, talk to a guy that raises the affection of one member of the NPCs up high enough that he can then instantly go to the camp and seduce them.
What?
2 minutes and, 13 seconds. And that was by, just to give credit where it's due, that was by a YouTuber called Mae, M-A-E. And they hold, and they have held these records for several weeks now. They had, I think the fastest was like 8 minutes or something.
I think
they've managed to shave.
In my aim of trying to explain D&D, and in my aim of trying to explain D&D, that's the hardest thing to explain. That whole thing you were just talking about.
Right? That sounds crazy to people that don't know.
Exactly.
But for those that know, they're laughing right now.
I was going to say, as for everything that Donald was saying about try to convince someone to play Baldur's Gate, they're like, no.
Or they're going, bear sex. Fuck it, I'm in. But yeah, crazy stuff. But that's the thing. It's just a myriad of possibilities.
Yeah.
And things will happen that'll have you laughing. Like, there have literally been times where I've played that game where I've had to stop and I'm just laughing. It's great entertainment. And I've said this before several times. Anyone that knows me, I used to pay 15 quid a month to play a computer game, World of Warcraft. And people often used to say to me, man, you pay money every month to play that game. Why? And I said, well, do the maths. I can't remember, at one time, a lot of hours every week playing that game.
We lost you for 2 years, Barry.
Yeah, this is it. So when you break it down that way, when you do the maths on that, how many hours over €15 a month, there's very, very little else in the world of entertainment that can come close to that. Because if you go to a pub
today is €15.
Yeah, if you go to a pub one Saturday night and you're spending 70 or 80 quid probably, and if you throw in a taxi and maybe a babysitter, you're talking about 150 quid for one night for a few hours of entertainment, and entertainment that leaves you groggy and tired and possibly headachy the next day. So you tell me which makes more sense, like.
No, the logic is sound.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another question. There's nothing I want to say, but what age group should play the game, could play the game, and the same for D&D. The same for D&D,
same for tabletop and computer game.
For tabletop and for Baldur's Gate 3 specifically.
I've alluded to bear sex.
Yeah.
So obviously, someone mature enough to understand that that's not something you should go out and do. I guess
something you should not try to do.
Yeah, should definitely not.
Are we talking in the game or in real life?
Yes,
in real life.
All right.
No, in the game, yeah, why not? It's a game, makes no odds. But in real life, yeah, definitely do not try and go and have sex with a bear, even if you think you're getting along really, really well with the bear. Probably not.
He accepted your honey.
Yeah. So, yeah. Obviously, someone who's mature enough to handle that. Yeah. There's swearing in the game as well. There's profanity.
Oh, it is nudity. A mature content game.
There is maturity. There's an option in the options screen of the computer game. There is a tick box for show genitals. So
I was really shocked at that. Actually, I was because
you just thought they shouldn't give you a choice. Well, just throw those genitals in your face.
Not even. No, it was at one point. You know the way it's like the whole essence of all of these role playing games is. You have a coat of armor that gives you 3 protection, and then you kill someone, and his armor is better than mine. So his armor gives you 4 protection. So you take off your crappy armor and you put on the better armor. But I was like, with Shadowheart, it's taking off all the clothes and put on other clothes. Like, what? It's butt naked underneath. It's like every video game ever, and I've played all the RPGs. When you take off all their clothes, they still have their unremovable kind of.
Have you read the descriptions on all the underwear?
No.
Every single underwear has a description on it.
Oh man, what's the description?
Well, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but every single...
No,
well, I
but
think
is it
nearly
like-
every... Not everyone.
Is
but
it like
all the main kind of
soiled-
character ones? No, for example, like the
Soiled,
wizards... The
flea-ridden-
wizards underwear says something along the lines of, do these underwears really give off an arcane energy? Do you know? Things like that.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, it makes sense. It makes, I think, in a game where it's like, you can go and, like, even, there was one point where I came across these enemies, but they were sleeping because they were all drinking after a party. And it was like, I just slit all their throats when they were asleep. No fight. You still get the XP and you can steal their loot and everything. So in a game where you can go around killing people, chopping off their heads, brutally murdering them in whatever way you please, or throwing them off cliffs or anything, to be like, ooh, but don't show a boob. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all.
that's the thing,
It's
isn't
either a game for adults or it's not.
so yeah, to answer those questions, it is a game for adults.
Yeah, I
but,
wouldn't
you
have
know,
a
mature children
12-year-old
as well.
playing it.
Yeah, exactly. And the tabletop game, a little bit different. Like, if I would say 12 would probably be the youngest, really. Like, you could probably go younger.
I was going to say, I would assume if the GM
I would say
makes
10,
a campaign
10-ish.
for kids,
then
Oh, yeah,
100%,
okay, good
100%.
point, Mark. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But like the game that I GM and Donald plays in, a couple of times last year, what was he, 5 or 6 at the time, sat in with us for like 10 minutes before he went to bed, and it was really funny because he understood the concept, he understood what he was supposed to do. He can't read though, so there's he couldn't read his
point.
character sheet, and he's able to read the dice rolls, but he wasn't.
he could be like an orc with low intelligence.
yeah. But even the orc with no intelligence has to know what he's able to do, so he has to be able to read some, but you can, I suppose, you could in theory make a simplified version of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sure it's out there for younger children, but I think there is so much stuff in the tabletop game that you would want like 10 to 12.
Actually,
I'd say,
yeah, there's
would be
loads of books of reading.
a lot of
And
reading.
there's a lot of concepts as
a lot
well.
of
like.
concepts.
And the concepts aren't like bad concepts, just that
Yeah.
it's like,
And
if you do this and combine it with this, then this will happen.
just so people are clear, it does not lead to actual witchcraft. None of the wizard spells are actual spells, and Satan has very little involvement.
Well, I think that satanic scare of the 80s or whatever is over now, and that the Nazi Pope who was saying that Harry Potter was evil.
I don't know who the Nazi Pope. There's a Nazi Pope.
There was.
Is it just the Pope?
No,
You're talking about-
yeah,
but he was a member of the Nazi party back
Oh,
in the
right.
day.
Okay.
But
He was a member of the
Ratzinger, is it?
Yeah,
Ratzinger.
yeah.
He was a
But he
member of
was-
the Nazi youth.
he was full on, not jokingly saying how Harry Potter is evil because it's teaching kids about magic and stuff, which is the tool of the devil, and he drank the Kool-Aid all the way. So yeah, but he's not Pope anymore.
Magic is the tool of the devil. Let me turn this water into wine.
Okay, good point. I'm trying to think of, is there a spell in Dungeons and Dragons that transmute?
Transmute. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question here, right? Oh no, it's not a question. Did you hear the thing where a YouTuber, and this was really picked up on, a YouTuber put out a video saying, don't expect other games to be like Baldur's Gate 3. Have you heard
Oh yeah,
of
this
that?
is a huge controversy.
Oh yeah, I heard.
Yeah. So just explain it
wasn't even
really
a
quickly.
YouTuber. It was they were reporting on a developer from another company saying, "Oh, this can't be the standard."
Yeah.
And in some ways, I kind of see his point, because like most games companies don't get the luxury of having 6 years to develop a game across multiple offices around the world. One of which is in Dublin, as far as I know.
They've 7 offices across the world, but also I think before they started this, they had 80 employees, and then they went up to 450 for this game.
Yeah.
And then they had those 450 working for 6 years or something. So that much resources funneled into a game is going to produce an end product. I think other developers are like, this better not be the standard that everyone else has to meet now, because we don't. No one else has
It's
those
not even
resources.
that they can't; it's that they won't.
Oh yeah,
They're not going to pay people for 6 years,
Yeah. So
maybe for an outcome.
the question is, do you agree with the person that said that?
I think no matter how the standard is raised, the standard is raised. That's the standard now. You can't lower the standard again. Well, you can, but
Well, you can't. Like, I played Baldur's Gate 1 when it came out at the time, and it blew me away at the time. And it wasn't until Dragon Age came out in probably 2008 that I found another RPG that, to me, managed to best Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
And that was like 10 years later.
yeah. And how long from Dragon Age? Now, Mass Effect, I would kind of lump in the same era, and the same company.
I was going to say, funny enough, it's the same company.
And that's like, how badly did EA mess that company up? Because they were releasing Baldur's Gate, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, fantastic games, and then
well, funny, EA didn't actually have a fingerprint on Baldur's Gate's demise. I think
Interplay.
BioWare and Interplay were releasing it together or something, and Interplay went bust or something. So because they were actually planning on releasing Baldur's Gate 3 back in the early 2000s.
Oh, right.
That was the plan, was the trilogy, and then they just went bust. And because it's the usual stupid thing where they go bust and the IP went with them, so now no one owns it. So it's hard to. And I think then the
Wizards of the Coast had their own things going on.
They have some hold on it or something.
Wizards of the Coast are the parent company for Dungeons and Dragons, and Wizards of the Coast are owned by Hasbro, the toy company. So
basically, should it be a standard, or should people expect?
Like, The Witcher 3 is one of my favorite examples of a standard. Like, The Witcher 3 came out, and it's just a phenomenally brilliant role-playing adventure game. And it's not even as in-depth of a role-playing game as Dragon Age or Baldur's Gate, excuse me, or Mass Effect, but it's still, because it's a single character, you don't get to create the character yourself. It's a character, you're playing this character, Geralt, and that's it. But it's so well done. And again, CD Projekt Red put a huge amount of time and effort into it, and they released a game that was very, very close to being perfect for its genre and its time and everything. And once again, they did it without, correct me if I'm wrong, they did have DLCs for it, and but huge expansion DLCs. These were huge extra parts of the game that allowed you to play on for even longer and even more stuff. And it was just really, really lots of fun. But without it, there's no in-store, there's no in-game store in it. There's no, you bought the game and that was it, away you went. And they released patches and they fixed any bugs and stuff like that over time. And when they released it, I think it was a decent game on release.
I'm going to give an analogy here because I love giving analogies, and I'm going to give the analogy of, imagine you went into I was going to say Tom Hogan, who can go with you buy cars off. Imagine you went into a car seller, okay, and the car seller said, okay, here's your car, you pay 30,000 euro for the car, and you now own the car. And you sit into the car and you're like, you put your hands on the steering wheel and the steering wheel comes off. Is that acceptable?
Absolutely not. But it's just a bug. They'll fix that.
In the gaming world, when you buy computer games sometimes, people say, oh, there's a game-breaking bug sometimes in the game, and it takes away...
Takes you out of the immersion.
It takes you out the immersion, and it's like, in other words, if you're driving, well, if your steering wheel falls off, it's really serious. But you have to work with the analogy. It's like... if you thought you had bucket seats type of thing, but the seats were actually really uncomfortable to sit in. If you thought the fan would work, but the fan doesn't work, the car will still drive, but it's like it doesn't work.
The wheels aren't exactly straight.
Yeah,
we'll fix that down the road.
They're bugs, they shouldn't be in the car. They're not in the car. But then they're bugs. DLC is like you're allowed to buy. It's like, imagine you buy a car and it's got the car is grey because it hasn't been painted. Is that a good example of DLC? Not really.
Well, no, it's more. It could be that, but it's also you buy a car, but it has no color because the colors are all behind the paywall. You got to go and pay more for the color. But funnily enough, cars are like that. You can buy a car and
cars are the worst example.
Yeah, because the base model is...
Exactly. I was going to say, you can buy a standard car or spend an extra couple of grand and you get better speakers.
But maybe a better analogy would be going into a restaurant and saying, I'll get the steak dinner, please. And they bring it down, it's just a steak on the plate. And you're like, hey, can I get some veg with this? And like, oh yeah, we can add on the veg extras. That's no problem at all.
Although they do that too, and that is kind of normal in a restaurant.
Not really, not if you ask for a steak dinner.
Well, yeah.
And then it comes down and there's nothing else with it. And then you're like, how do I eat this? Oh, would you like the fork and knife package?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Oh, you want a plate with that? Yeah, it's literally that, but also it's not cooked because that's...
I always feel like analogies, though, sometimes fit and sometimes don't, and I think these aren't landing because...
Not landing with you.
Yeah.
No, not landing with you. Okay. They're good analogies.
Okay, all right.
They're the best analogies that ever analogied.
In fact, you could say if these were analogies were steaks, they'd be like.
They'd be
really good steaks.
T-bone.
Yeah.
No, that's a good analogy. That analogy's landing with me.
Kobe. I don't know anything about steaks.
The Kobe, the basketballer, that steak.
What's the name of those?
I know
Japanese?
the cows that get massages.
Is it Kobe?
Yeah.
Is it Kobe steak?
What's this?
The Kobe steak.
Linda, what's the name of the meat? The Kobe meat.
It's Kobe. Kobe steaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Linda's like agreeing just to make us go away.
I have a question here. Okay,
Right.
this is my last question. Okay, is there a gender difference one way or another that more boys play it or more girls play it?
I have absolutely no idea what the split is, but go on.
Okay, I was just going to say, and apologies to
Anyone in between.
anyone in between.
Yeah. I don't know what the gender split is on who plays it. I simply don't know that. I do know that the Larian CEO had said to his team, listen, we could have anything up to like 100,000 people playing this game at one time once we launch. So we need to make sure our servers are ready for that. 100,000 is what he told them be prepared for. They had 800,000 playing the game simultaneously.
Wow,
Not long after launch. Yeah.
And for D&D, the board game, pen and paper game, would there be more boys or
I don't
girls
think
there?
there's ever been 800,000 people playing that concurrently. That'd be something.
There definitely has. But for actual Dungeons and Dragons, it's not a boys game.
No, 100% no.
Yeah, 100% not. Yeah. It's definitely an everyone game.
The two games I'm currently involved in both have girls in them. So
Yeah.
so
And I'd say that there's a huge number of, like, I'd say across the board, like loads of different types of people play.
100%.
Yeah, loads of different genders play.
Yeah. All of them.
Baldur's
I'd
Gate
imagine.
3 as well.
I would actually be curious to hear some kind of statistic on that, though. I have no idea. I'm just interested. But anyway.
I should have prepared that question. Let me think. Do you have anything else to say, Barry, on this?
I do know that it's shot up the Steam charts. Steam is the game platform it's released on PC. So when I did this list, at that time there were just shy of 300,000 people playing it at that moment. But that peaked not long after launch at 800,000.
Don't know what you
And it peaked at 875,000 people, which is the third highest on the Steam charts.
Ever?
Yeah. And it also had...
Now I'm curious what the other two are.
Oh, I can't remember, but Dota
God
or
damn it,
something
Barry.
like that.
Yeah. Go on anyway.
But also the hours played, also third of all time. It's already clocked up 242,457.
The hours played already, and it's only just out.
It's only been out a couple of weeks.
How many hours? Sorry.
242,457,522 hours clocked. Also third. Call of Duty is top of both those lists.
Just think what humanity could do as a species if we decided
To
let's
stop being-
take 2.4 million man hours, and I use that term just and just do something else with it, as opposed to just like
Playing a game.
pushing orcs over cliffs and throwing oil on them and burning them.
And having sex with bears. Yeah, I mean, but the same could be said. Like, what could we accomplish if we stopped watching football matches, or if we stopped going to the cinema, if we stopped?
You know
doing
what?
all
At
that
least
stuff?
watching football matches, you're going to watch a football match and you're going to go afterwards and go, yeah, I like football, and you're going to kick a football around and boom, you've burned calories. But like watching Love Island or something, no offense to Love Island.
I don't know, man. I've watched
Now you're
loads
gonna-
of football matches, and I have never wanted to go out kick a football.
Yeah,
afterwards.
no, exactly. I think
never led
that's
to-
a definite. But I think that's a judgment-laden kind of a, the thing I watch has value, and the thing this other person watches, but I don't like, doesn't have value.
You're right. Let me clarify. The thing I watch does have value, and if I don't watch it, it definitely, in my opinion, doesn't have enough value.
Okay.
Just a silence.
I mean, you can't argue with that.
No, you cannot. You can't argue with that.
So that's it. In conclusion, buy Baldur's Gate. How much is it?
60 quid, I think.
I don't know, Rachel. I wasn't even going to buy it, and I wasn't going to buy it because I keep feeling, I don't have time for video games, and I was also thinking, I'm kind of scared if I buy it that they're going to be just sucked up in it with loads. And then Rachel just bought it for me, and I was like, oh hey, I have it now.
Yeah.
So then I was like really excited, and I ran out and just installed it and got. But then I just jumped in too quick and didn't take time with character creation. I should have done that.
Exactly.
So I had to restart because of that.
Yeah, but restarting's part of the fun of it.
And
restarting several times, like me.
Yeah.
In conclusion, I will say this much: it's 100% definitely game of the year this year.
Yeah,
without a shadow of a doubt.
No, caveat on that.
Starfield
is coming out in 2 weeks' time. Now, Starfield is going to be a different beast. It's going to need, I think, a much more powerful computer to run. So I think by default, now Baldur's Gate 3 needs pretty, semi-decent. But Starfield, I think, is going to be up a level. So I think that might affect its sales a little bit. But from what I've seen, from what I've read about Starfield, oh my God, I can't wait. I'm going to be playing Baldur's Gate 3 a lot. There's another computer game I just want to throw it in here very, really quickly as well, because we've been talking about how good a job Larian did on their games. There's another game that came out quite a while ago as well, but didn't have the same launch success as Baldur's Gate 3 did, and that's No Man's Sky. That came out a broken, buggy mess, and nowhere near what the designer of the game had promised. He had promised quite literally the sun, moon, and the stars, and did not deliver. But the company, Hello Games, that made it, stuck with it, kept going. And this is, again, they didn't charge. There's no in-game store in it. They didn't charge money for anything extra, but they kept updating the game and putting expansions on the game and adding content.
And all these expansions are free.
All free.
You just
update the game.
Looking at that, because I remember the hype before that came out. And it got it's the perfect example of when I'm like, you'll never believe guess how much it was, guess how much. Yeah. You're obviously going to overshoot. That's what the vendor of that game did before they released it. They were just saying how amazing it would be. And if they had just said, it is what it's going to be, here you go, everyone would have been happy. Yeah. But the
thing is, I don't think there's anyone that were incredibly disappointed with that game when it came out. I don't think, there probably is a few of them that are like, no, I still don't like it. I think over time they've won pretty much everyone.
Yeah, and it's another game, I will say.
Amazing.
It's, I think, 50 quid on Steam.
Yeah,
but it's 100% one of those games, because I have it on my wish list. Every couple of months, it goes to half price on a Steam sale. So on a PC anyway, you're out of luck if you're on a console. You just have to buy it for whatever. But Steam always do these Steam sales. If you can add it to your wish list, and kind of Steam will keep an eye on it for you. And if the developers put it up on sale and reduce the price in any way, you'll get an email to say, oh, this game is cheaper now. And that goes down to half price all the time.
Yeah, quite often. And it's definitely, it's just another example of a developer who cares about their customers and cares about the product they're making, which is exceptionally rare nowadays. Now, most AAA, especially AAA studios, want to just get as much money out of people's pockets as they can. So they will rehash the same ideas over and over again, and they might update the graphics a little bit, but they'll have their buy the skin or get this loot box that's a gambling thing and buy 50 of them and steal your mother's credit card to buy these things. And I hate that. I don't like that at all. I think that goes against the whole idea of gaming, which is the community and the fun aspect of it. It takes it away from it. But I think Larian, I think the likes of Hello Games need to be CD Projekt Red. They need to be lauded. They need to be kind of put up on those pedestals. And yes, they are setting standards, but they're standards that we should all espouse to.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, my closing thought on this is a mail that Linda sent in there. Baldur's Gate lets you customize your character's genitals.
I haven't seen that yet. I don't know where you're doing that. I don't know where you're doing
all that. Genital options.
I literally haven't seen that in the game. Because I saw this and I was like, oh, how the heck do you do that? I haven't seen that.
Trust Linda to sink down to the lowest level. Yeah.
I know that the character customization screen is very in-depth. But now that I look back on it, because like I say, when I started it, I just jumped into a pre-made character. Yeah. Then I regretted that and I said, no, I want to do my own character. And I went back and went through and took time. Yeah, I didn't see it either. No, I wasn't looking for it though, to be fair.
As Data said, I assure you, no, not I assure you, Captain. He's here.
Maybe.
I assure you, I'm fully functional.
I'm programmed in multiple techniques.
That's it then, is it?
I think that's it, yeah.
Okay, guys, we don't know what the podcast is next week, do we?
No, we haven't decided yet.
We haven't decided yet. But like and subscribe and comment
and share if you like.
And share, and that's it.
Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to Linda in the background there for helping us with the research and stuff.
Yeah. That's it, guys. Have a good one. Until we see you again. Bye-bye. Boom.